popular drug. Also, we understand that the news conference is now starting near Los Alamos about the Los Conchas fire.
That's right. We're going to join it live now, and it should include the governor as well as other federal and county officials. So why don't we head right now to Santa Fe, where we're going to get a better idea of exactly how many acres and has burned in the Santa Fe area, or in the Los Alamos area, rather. And last word we heard about 60,000 acres. And now here is the news conference going on in Los Alamos.
Here again yesterday. We evacuated again, and we were out at the shelters today, all 5 of us counselors, and I want to just commend our very positive, very safe evacuation that went through yesterday, orderly, no accidents. And I want to commend the evacuees for how they handled themselves. I also, as I said, we were out there visiting, and one of the things that came across to us strong and clear was the need for continued information. And so with that, the county council has set up a customer care center. That number is 662-8333, and we encourage all residents to call that number. They'll be manned till 10 o'clock each night. It's from people that are in the community, utilities workers who understand what's going on with the fire, and they can provide timely updates to you. In addition to that, we know that a lot of folks who evacuated and are elsewhere have concerns for the evacuees. They want to bring food, the clothing. To that end, we would ask that those people, because right now the main concern is responding to the fire and ensuring that the safety of the community is at hand. So to that end, we would request that those people wishing to make donations be made through the Red Cross. We want to strongly thank all our regional partners. There's been about 12 throughout the state who are here helping us, and it's in real time that they're offering assistance. We also want to thank the American Red Cross, the Salvation Army, our New Mexico Guard here who is out manning to make sure our streets remain safe. We want to commend them for their help. And once again, our governor, who's going to speak to you in just a moment, Susana Martinez, she was here 2 days ago. She was here last night. I know she was out visiting with the people in the shelters. In fact, one lady last night told me that she had not gone through the day without the hug that she got from the governor. And we also have our congressional folks here. Senator Udall will be speaking to you in just a moment as well. And to that end, I would now ask our governor to make some brief comments.
Thank you. First, I want to certainly thank all of the firefighters and all of the men and women that are on the front line, law enforcement officers and our National Guard for what they are doing to make sure, one, that this community remains safe, that White Rock stays safe as well, Cochiti, all the surrounding area, and of course the lab as well. They are doing a wonderful job pulling the resources together, not just throughout the state, but throughout the country. The evacuation went well. The shelter is open. The shelter over at Santa Clara, it is also open at the Cities of Gold. They're welcoming anyone who has had to leave their home for whether it be because of the evacuation or health reasons. First of all, please don't stay in your homes. If it is not safe, come to the shelters or find another location. There are also hotels who, if you go to the website, the government website, you can find hotels at a lower rate. We have negotiated through the tourism department with hotels so that you can stay there if you don't want to stay at a shelter. I am urging New Mexicans, please do not purchase or use fireworks during the season. Be a good patriot, go to a public event where it is safe. I have the authority only to disallow or to prevent any kind of fireworks on public land, but I cannot do it within the city limits or in counties. And so please, I urge New Mexicans, do not use fireworks from here on out. The different counties throughout the state are very dry. We cannot afford to continue to have fires like we're experiencing now. So make this a safe holiday. Please do not use fireworks. We've got to make sure to get these men and women to focus on the fires that are burning now, and so that there are no new fires. Absolutely, we need to take care of that. Thank you.
Governor, you'll stay around for questions.
Oh, sure,
yes.
sure.
And now I'd like to introduce Senator Tom Udall. And Senator, your support is very much appreciated as always in lending a hand. And I appreciated the immediate phone call. What can we do to help you, to help Los Alamos through this fire? So Senator Udall, thank you.
Sharon, thank you very much. And let me first of all thank the county council here. They've been out on the front lines. They've been very aggressive in terms of trying to organize county resources. And the thing that's so, to me, impressive about this effort, you just heard from Governor Martinez, the chair of the council's been talking to you. At the county level, at the state level, and at the federal level, we're throwing absolutely everything at this that we've got. And the one thing that impresses me the most, I was here in 2000, and in 2000, we were a little bit taken by surprise. There are incredible people here at the lab, but this time around, there's been a full analysis of what happens if you have fires, if you have earthquakes, and precautions have been taken over those years and put in place. And I'm just very, very impressed with the team that we have in place that is carrying out the protective measures that are going to occur over these days until we get this fire under control. I want to say that I was on a plane yesterday, and I went to Albuquerque. I started to board the plane. I had my boarding pass, and I kept getting reports from my staff, and I had a briefing with the director of the lab and others. And it just seemed to me that I had to be here with my people. I couldn't get on that plane, and I came back, and the first thing I did was drive up to the Santa Clara Convention Center. In that convention center, the governor and I teamed up. We walked in together to the convention center to visit with the evacuees. And I must say that once again, I'm impressed, and I always see this in these kinds of incidents. New Mexicans pulled together in very hard times. And that's what was happening yesterday. There were a number of volunteer organizations, Salvation Army, Red Cross, people pulling together to help evacuees. And we would urge, and I know all of us as elected leaders here would urge that if people want to help, find those organizations that are helping now and find out how you can help them. All of the organizations that have been mentioned, I think, are playing a very, very key role in this. Just to say a couple of words about the federal response, through FEMA, 75%. The governor, in a very timely way, put in her request to the federal administration. FEMA will be picking up 75% of the costs. The state and the federal government know how to do this. We've done it over many times. An additional thing that I have asked to happen, and I know it's been my experience from the past Soto Grande fire and other fires that we've had, when situations happen like this, fear sometimes takes hold. And there are people out there that will say things that aren't true about the situation in order to capitalize on it. And we don't want that to happen, to have fear be ruling. And one of the best ways to make sure that that doesn't happen is having press conferences like this where we can all speak out. We can tell you what the facts are. The national lab director is here. He's on top of his team and what they're doing. And so we want to emphasize that we're going to try to give you, all of us, the very best information we have in a very unpredictable situation because we're dealing with these winds and what's going on. One final word, I know people are concerned about what's in the smoke, what's happening, people living in neighboring communities, Espanola, Santa Fe. I have requested that the Environmental Protection Agency do additional monitoring, not because in any way I question what Los Alamos is doing. Los Alamos has state-of-the-art monitoring going, and they will continue to do that, and you'll hear from the lab director on that. I believe that Governor Martinez and her agencies also are going to be doing air quality monitoring, and the federal government. And so just like we did in Cerro Grande, 3 different levels of oversight and of overview so that we can assure the public that what is happening in terms of air quality and the kinds of releases. So the final thing I want to say, because we had this experience the last time around, and I don't know that any of you are going to show this on the air, but I just want to say it. If you are outside of New Mexico and you are intending to come to New Mexico as a tourist, as a visitor, to do business for a convention, New Mexico is still open for business. Most of our state is doing very well. Our businesses are functioning, and we would urge you to travel here. And don't look at the national media and get the idea that the entire state of New Mexico is on fire. We do have some very obviously crucial situations here, but we do want people to visit and continue to enjoy New Mexico and the things that we have to offer. And with that, Sharon, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Senator. And now I'll introduce our Chief Tucker, Doug Tucker, who 11 years ago was providing leadership. And I have to tell you, after listening to him before, my shoulders were like this, and then hearing him explain what was going on, I kind of relaxed. And with the evacuees today, they gave you a round of applause for your leadership. Thank you, Chief Tucker.
Let's give him another round of applause.
How about a standing ovation? Thank you. I am not the one that deserves this applause. It's the people that surround me. It's folks like you that deserve the applause. The senator was talking about how we have prepared for this fire after the Cerro Grande fire, the mitigation. This is a fire-wise community. We are still on fire. We have not lost any structures at the laboratory or in the town site, and we don't plan on losing any structures. Right now we're prepping 2 canyons, Pajarito Canyon and Los Alamos Canyon. We have some of our public works folks, in fact about 45 people near the ice rink, preparing the ice rink and taking away some of the trees that were there, the smaller trees, and removing it. In fact, we're going to recycle, so we're going green during this fire. and this is our opportunity to take care of that. On the Llano side, we have some buildings that we're adding extra prep to, buildings that we're just taking another layer. We have the time. This fire has laid down on top for today. Right now I say that, I notice the winds are starting to pick up again. They're coming out of the southwest. For us right now, that's good. It made a run for the ski hill last night, and we fought fire last night on the ski hill from about 10 o'clock, and we're continuing to put out spot fires now. It ran to the ridge, and it ran over and spotted into the ski hill. The lodge is safe. We were able to put the spot fires out around the lodge. We had some spot fires in the trees, but most of this fire has hooked around and gone on top of Camp May, headed towards Santa Clara Canyon. It has to go through a burn scar to get there. So right now the fire, as long as it stays on that side and up, we're in good shape. If we get the winds to change and the winds push it down, we will be fighting fire in Los Alamos Canyon and in Pajarito Canyon. In addition, on the south side of the lab, State Route 4, next to Frijoles Canyon, Bandelier, they continue to fight fire in Frijoles Canyon, and we still have a strong anchor on State Route 4. So right now, things are looking good. This is a make or break it day for Los Alamos County, not for the rest of the fire. They have had, they called in 2 Type 1 teams. They have an area command because they're dividing this fire. It is so big, and the potential exists to go toward Jemez, that they are trying to protect the south borders. This is the north side of the fire, and we have our own battle here. But right now, we're feeling pretty good. We have a good anchor. That said, we're not into the heat of the day. We're not into the final burn period. About 6 o'clock tonight, I'll be able to tell you how much better we're doing and whether or not it's going to stay out of Los Alamos Canyon and Pajarito Canyon.
What's the threat in those 2 canyons?
The threat in those 2 canyons is during the fire burned over them. So there's unburnt fuels, and we have structures right on the edge of both of those canyons in Pajarito Canyon and Los Alamos. Los Alamos Canyon is the very next canyon over. The next canyon south of that's Pajarito. So it's some of our main populace hangs over Los Alamos Canyon.
Any containment?
Excuse me, if we could, we'll have questions and answers
Sorry,
at the end of the conference.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm into my leadership.
No. Next, I'd like to introduce our newly appointed laboratory director, Charlie McMillan, and I have to say, not only is he engaged, I've been at the EOC and appreciate his strong leadership, but his wife was also engaged packing lunches for the responders. And so good team effort, and Charlie, if you will.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm Charles McMillan. I'm the director of the Los Alamos National Laboratory. I have here with me Kevin Smith. Kevin is the site office manager for the NNSA here, so he's the federal representative. There are three things I'd like to talk about. First of all, fire on the Los Alamos site. This morning, we do not have any fires on the Los Alamos laboratory site. Second, our facilities and nuclear materials. Our facilities and nuclear materials are protected and safe. Third, release of radioactive materials and hazardous materials. There hasn't been any. Let me say that again. There hasn't been any. But before I talk about each of those three areas, I'd like to say thank you. Thank you to Governor Martinez. Thank you to Senator Udall. Our elected representatives have been very, very engaged on this issue, and I've been talking to them many times a day. Second, thank you to our neighbors. Not only our neighbors here in the pueblos nearby, who've helped us with people, access to tribal lands, but our neighbors in Santa Fe, our neighbors in Espanola, who are helping to house the people of the laboratory. So thank you. Let me talk now about each of the issues. Fire. The only fire that we have had at the laboratory at all in this period is a very small fire yesterday afternoon that jumped into Water Canyon. That's in TA 49. Our firefighters there saw the fire very quickly, put it out on the order of an hour, and it burned something less than an acre. So a very small fire, one that we were able to respond to very quickly because of the talent of folks like Chief Tucker's groups. So that's where we stand on fire on the laboratory site. Second, protection of our facilities. Several of the earlier speakers have talked about the mitigation that we've done since the Cerro Grande fire. We've removed fuels from near the buildings. We've done the analysis to understand what would happen to our buildings if a fire occurred. And we've made plans to deal with that in terms of fire suppression systems in the buildings, things of that nature. As Chief Tucker mentioned this morning, as I talked to my team, we said, are there any more things we can do? And so they've gone out and looked, and we have teams that are headed out now to do even more to reduce the risk further should we have the fire come down into the canyons, as Chief Tucker talked about. Finally, let me talk about radiological materials and hazardous materials. Here in this region, we have an air quality monitoring system that has about 60 air monitors in it. I've talked to my team and asked them to go out, check the filters in those monitors to make sure that we're still collecting data, because I want to be absolutely certain we have data that we know what's happened. In addition, we've deployed 4 other high-volume samplers that we keep in reserve for events like this. And then, as Senator Udall mentioned, we'll be looking at the sensors from around the whole region. At this point, we don't have releases, and when we're done, we'll make sure we all know the facts. Finally, let me just say a word to the employees of the laboratory. One of the things I've talked about as I've become the director is the importance of having strong teams. Let me assure you that the team that we have working this for the laboratory and for our community is a strong team. When we're in the Emergency Operations Center, you can't tell which color jersey people are wearing. Whether it's a county jersey, a federal jersey from the site office, a laboratory jersey, a Forest Service jersey, we're working as one team in there. It's a strong team that's protecting our homes. It's a strong team that's protecting a great national resource, the Los Alamos National Lab. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask our police chief, Wayne Torpy, who helped lead the evacuation, safe evacuation and orderly evacuation of our community. Chief Torpy.
I'm going to be quick. Last night I gave you the update on the evacuation. It did go very smoothly. We began with a voluntary evacuation that cleared anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 people from the community the first 24-hour period. We went to a mandatory evacuation yesterday. We moved the rest of the folks, in majority, off of the mountain in about 2.5 to 3 more hours. Since then, we have conducted door-to-door checks of every residence in the western area and in Camazon to ensure that we got the majority of our citizens out. We were able to do that very rapidly because we have so many National Guard forces on the ground here to help us, as well as state police. We made it through all of that entire neighborhood. We found 31 individuals still here at that time. However, a large portion of those were just still packing up and expected to leave. We've created lists for all of those residences, so we know if fire is imminent to any one of those houses, our first responders can get there and further encourage them to evacuate quickly. That all happened really because of the cooperation of our citizens and leaving us a very small number of people to have to deal with if this fire should get into any of our residential neighborhoods. Currently, we are on the mesas doing the same activities we did yesterday to identify the rest of our citizens in the community. So we'll have that concluded by priority, as we believe the fire could, or a potential for the fire to reach those communities. The most important thing I want to talk about right now, though, is that we are already, with our team, working with the National Guard and our staff to talk about the repopulation of the community when that time is appropriate. We are not waiting until we find out it's time. I've spoken to many residents who are concerned about how we're going to do that. We're getting that plan together, so the moment that we have it all clear and we can open this community, we will be prepared to bring you all home. We have officers, National Guard, state police patrolling your neighborhoods. So as my counterpart here, the fire chief and his staff are doing an excellent job of protecting your homes from fire. We, on the same hand, want you to come home and find your personal property and your residences the way you left them. So those things are all being taken care of at the immediate, and I feel very, very fortunate to have all the help that we've had here on the Hill, because we couldn't have done that without the assistance of the state and the federal government that has supported us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. And now I'll ask Randy Audio, our county administrator, to come up.
Thank you, Councilor. I first want to thank everyone who's been working this fire, all of the emergency responders, everyone at the lab. I want to thank all of you in the media. I know that sounds strange coming from a public official, but you're getting the word out, and even when some things aren't exactly right, it's better to get as much information out as we can. So thank you all. Thank you for the county workers. We have essential services still being provided on the Hill. It's only essential staff still reporting, but all essential services are up and running. We are collecting trash in White Rock today, and we are collecting for businesses. The second major thing is mail. People off the Hill are very worried about their mail. We've been in contact with the United States Post Office, and mail that was coming to Los Alamos is going to be delivered at the Pahokee High School. We hope today, but tomorrow is more likely. And at that time, if you have your ID, you can get your mail down at the Pahokee High School until we have it all clear.
That's happening today.
Yeah.
That's available today.
Okay, it's going to be available today, I've just heard. So if you have your ID, the mail is going to be coming to Pahokee High School. The final thing that I just wanted to mention about is that there's been some concern about power outages. Power is still on in Los Alamos. There is one outage currently that's going to be addressed, but we have power, so all of your refrigerators and everything that is happening that you need at your homes there is still on. So we have water and power. We're hoping that that continues. There is one issue on a line right now that's causing some outages around the high school and western area, so we're going to try to get that fixed today. Again, thanks to everyone.
And Randy was talking about the mail service to Pewaukee, and Barbara Wood, the district communications coordinator, would just like to go over that, because that was a big issue, especially for the evacuees. And for those evacuees who did not have transportation to Pewaukee, with our regional transit district, they will provide to pick up the evacuees and take them to Pewaukee for those that are in Espanola. But I'd ask Barbara to come forward.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Barbara Wood, and I'm with the United States Postal Service here in New Mexico. And I'm happy to announce that we do have a post office located at the Pewaukee High School, and we're going to be open from 9 to 3 Monday through Friday and 9 to noon on Saturday until further notice. We want to make sure that people are able to connect with their mail, especially their medications and checks and the important mail that people get every day that they won't be able to get with this situation. And it's important to the post employees to keep the community connected. So we will be there to help everybody out. And again, as the gentleman mentioned, please have your ID with you so that we can verify who you are and get you the mail that you need. Even though this hard times in the situation, we hope that we can be a little bit of a shining light to help people out. Thank you.
And White Rock is still open, post office?
Yes, ma'am. The White Rock Post Office is still open at this time, so it's business as usual in White Rock. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we go to questions, you know, behind me is Councilor Ron Selvage, Councilor Fran Birding, Councilor Jeff Rogers, and Councilor Mike Wismer, and also our newly appointed State Representative Jim Hall. And we all stand shoulder to shoulder, and we're very much engaged in this process, making sure that our community remains safe, and as we get all the assistance from without the region and the entire state. So now I will turn it over to questions, and I would ask our police chief and fire chief, I think, and probably Charlie and Senator and Governor, if you could come up and answer any questions. Any questions? Come on, the firing line.
Charlie, I think Governor, can I start with you?
Governor, that's perfect.
I think because what happens at the lab is so secretive, there's a lot of mistrust. Do you trust what you're hearing from the people at the lab?
You know, we have to ask a lot of questions, and we're going to continue to ask a lot of detailed questions. Of course, the mission and what is going on at the lab has to be something that cannot be shared, all of those details, with the public. However, safety issues will be shared. We will share with you whether the fire is on the property or not, whether there's materials that is at risk of getting burnt or not, and whether or not the air quality is where it should be. I, as governor, will not keep that from you if I hear that from the labs. And so it is my job to inquire over and over and over again so that I get the same answer every time I ask it. If it changes, then of course that information will come to you. I'm committed to digging to make sure I'm getting the absolute accurate information. I don't have a reason to doubt that. However, if I hear it and I don't get it right, and it's not something that has been shared with you and you deserve to know it, I will tell it to you.
How far is the fire from the lab right now?
That's a question for you, I think.
Right now, it is on the lab border, on the south side. That little slop over we had is about a 1 acre slop over. It was on the south side. That's the only area that is currently touching the border of the lab. It is close on the west side, up along 501. So we have fire all around the lab on two sides, and it is, when you ask how close it is on the border, it's a road away usually.
What specifically did you do today to try and help some of those buildings on the lab property?
What we did is a lot of times we get a buildup of brush, and so we removed some of that brush, some of the low-hanging limbs. I don't think we had to remove any trees because that's already been done. So it's just a little finer cleanup, kind of like raking your pine needles. Today we went through and cleared some of the brush, made sure we had good access. And so most of it was just very minor fine-tuning of the fine fuels that are around. We did some mowing of some grasses and those type of things. When a fire's coming at a building, it's really good to have mineral soil there, and so that you don't have any fuels that carry a ground fire. And so because of that, it was a pretty simple process. We're already done with it.
Are you building any dozer lines on lab property?
We are looking at dozer lines. We already have fuel breaks and fire breaks on the lab since the La Mesa fire in 1977. So right now we are looking, if we get another spot fire, that's one of the things we consider, is putting a dozer line around it pretty quick. With the air assets we have, since we have a Type 1 team here, we're able to jump on it. And the last one was a well-coordinated attack. That acre was surrounded, and we were having helicopters dropping water on it while our guys were cutting fire line around it.
What's being done between the fire and last night was estimated about 3 miles to town? What's being done in between that area to protect the town?
That buffer just exists as a burn scar in some cases. Other cases, it's a forested area. We are doing some thinning in those areas, but we are not doing any burns right now. No black lining is going along in Los Alamos County. We are considering it. If we need that buffer, we will do it. It's a strategy we may look at.
You talked about the fuel threat in those canyons. Is there going to be any backburning being done in there to kind of prevent the fire from running straight through there and to here?
I don't think so. We have some natural breaks there. We have some roads in there, and so we'll anchor off those breaks. I really don't think we're going to do any firing in the canyons.
Chief, any containment to report at all?
As of this morning, as of about a few minutes ago, 0.
Any acreage, any increase in acreage from 60,000?
I can't talk about what's happening on the south side, so I don't know how well it's expanded. Here we picked up a few acres, probably an additional 1,000 acres, but I don't know what is on the south and the west side of this fire.
Anything you can say to put any people at ease that are watching this from their evacuation sites, worried about their homes?
I think what we can say is we have a lot of assets from around the state here, a lot of engine companies. We have folks from out of state, and all those folks are on the ground, they're on the roads to protect the homes and the structures here in Los Alamos. We have a better chance now than we've ever had, just given the state of affairs, where the fire's at, and the number of units we have here.
Chief Tucker, White Rock is currently under a voluntary evacuation, and I've had people call on the station asking whether or not when will they be able to be sure they're not going to be evacuated at all, total town.
You know, right now that voluntary evacuation mainly is for smoke, and we do not think that there's enough fire to carry it into White Rock. I flew it again this morning. There's just not a fuel bed there, continuous fuel to take it there. So I think we're good there. Most of the voluntary evacuation was the smoke. It is irritable, and a lot of people just can't stay in it. And we know it's going to be here for a few more days, so we tell them pick up and leave.
Including the exterior areas as Pajarito Acres and all that?
Everything I know in the county is under smoke right now. When I flew it, I didn't see anywhere that wasn't under smoke.
Can you comment on reports that this fire was sparked by a downed power line?
It's our understanding, witnesses said it started on power line. When I flew it the first day or second day, it looked like that was the point of origin, and there were power lines in it. That's under investigation, but that's what it looks like.
Mr. McMillan, can you, there's been a fair amount of publicity and a number of former employees who have come forward to say they're particularly concerned about barrels of nuclear waste that are essentially out in the open and not that far from the fire. Is that the case, and what can you tell us about that?
So I believe they're referring to one of our waste handling areas. We call it Area G. It's quite a ways from the fire now. So
how far?
I don't know. That's a question for you, Chief.
About 2 air miles.
Okay.
Two air miles.
Okay. Second, let me re-emphasize what I said earlier. You know, we have analyzed all of our nuclear facilities. We've analyzed them for fire. We've analyzed them for wildland fire. We've mitigated those risks. All of them have mitigation. And I'm confident, given the team that we have, that we can protect those facilities.
How difficult of a position is this for you? Because by your very nature, what you do there, and we're all thankful that it is secret, How difficult is it to come before and sort of try to explain to all of us and allay our fears about what's going on there?
I don't know how to answer the difficulty question, but let me answer it a slightly different way, which is I think that our public deserves to know about things like this. I agree with what Governor Martinez said. And so for me, I see it as part of my role in helping you understand how we're positioned at the laboratory and how we take care of safety for our community. I live in this community. Safety is important to me. It's important to the people who work at the laboratory. And I can assure you that we have worked with the greatest of diligence to ensure that safety.
Chief, for folks who are not familiar with the names of the canyons and the topographical areas around Los Alamos, at this present moment, is the fire burning towards Los Alamos or away from Los Alamos?
Both. Sorry. Okay. Well, yeah, there's all of the above, okay? Right now, because of the fact it's on the south, it is burning toward the Los Alamos. On the west side, it's coming slowly creeping this way while moving away. So in an environment like this, and you talk to topography, this is what it does, and the winds are going to move it. And you have surface winds going one direction, other winds going. As you go to the top of the ski hill, the winds right now down here are about 15 miles an hour. They're about 25, and they will change direction on you as you stand there. Right now, since we've been standing here, the flags have moved 3 different directions. And so when that's pushing flame, we get that swirling effect. So it is on top, moving away, but on the ground, it's moving toward us.
Yesterday you mentioned the potential that it could double and triple in size. Is that still a strong possibility?
A very strong possibility. There is so much unburnt fuel between here and Bernalillo. If you look at Conchas, it burned down to the area that there was no more fuel.
You have been watching and listening to a live news conference in Los Alamos with some of the key players in who are battling the Las Conchas fire in that area, and we've heard a number of good pieces of information.
That was Chief Doug Tucker who was speaking just now, and he really did give some good information, but some confusing information too, because he was saying the fire's moving toward Los Alamos but also away. What he did say was that a few thousand acres were lost overnight, but he wasn't exactly clear how much. No more structures have been lost, and this fire ran the ridge overnight, but they were able to contain it around the ski area. The big fight today is going to be Pajarito Canyon and also one other canyon up there, and that is just crucial for them. If the winds change direction, that would be a problem. They have been able to make some fuel breaks, and they've also been able to make some water drops near the lab, and really they seem to be very positive today. But one of the biggest questions, Mike, was the lab.
Indeed. Charlie McMillan, who is the on-site lab director at Los Alamos National Lab, says there are no fires on the site. The nuclear materials and the buildings on the location there on the property are safe. There have been no radioactive releases, none. And he talked about on the border, on the west side, the fire is on the border, but not into the property, and near the border on the south side. So that is the way he assessed it right there. And of course, some of our state leaders also had a chance to speak.
And one of them was, of course, Tom Udall, and he talked about FEMA covering 75% of the cost. That's been confirmed. Also, 3 levels of air quality, another concern right now. 3 different folks being involved, agencies, the Fed, the state, and also the lab, and that is being monitored very quickly. And also, he encouraged tourists who might be watching this on national media to please come to New Mexico. We are open for business.
Governor Susana Martinez spoke briefly, and what she really wanted to emphasize was she can't ban fireworks use in this state, but she can urge everyone not to buy fireworks, and certainly don't let off fireworks over this holiday until we get some rain, some donations. If you want to donate, they're encouraging you to give to the Red Cross. Also, if you have mail concerns, it'll be at Pewaukee High School, and they have opened a customer care number. This will be on our website. It is 662-8333. All right, well, that is the highlights of that long news conference with a lot of information out there. Obviously, we've gone a little bit long here on KRQE News 13.